Good morning, folks. Happy Thursday. Welcome to Advisory. Happy February 1st. February, of course, is Black History Month. So, a couple days out of each week in February in Advisory, we're going to be discussing Black history and its importance to American society today. Because while we do use February to specifically hone in on Black history and Black contributions to American history, it's important to note that Black history is American history and that the Black experience in America is inextricable from the way that this country started and what has happened since. I'm going to go now to a clip from this guy, Clint Smith, from his series Crash Course Black American History, which I will probably be borrowing from quite a bit this month. Listen as he explains the terminology about Black history and why it's so important.
We should probably begin by addressing the name of the course itself, Black American History. Over the course of American history, the language used to describe Black people has changed and evolved over time and will no doubt continue to change and evolve moving forward. Across the United States today, the term Black and African American are often used interchangeably, and there's a good chance that we'll use them interchangeably here as well. Typically, African American is meant to refer to people of African descent who were born in or are living in the United States. In the U.S., there are Black people whose ancestors were enslaved many generations ago and who are unable to trace their lineage to a specific place of origin. And there are Black people who immigrated to the United States just a few years ago from countries all over the world. While people's histories and experiences may be different, each of these groups of people and everyone in between is Black. And that plurality of experiences is both a remarkable and just a beautiful thing. As we'll discover, there's a great deal of fluidity with regard to how these terms are used and who they apply to. And delving into this will really help us understand how race is a social construct, but also one that has very real cultural, sociological, and political implications. Part of why this show is so important to me personally is that when I was younger, I felt like I didn't have the language or the toolkit with which to fully understand and make sense of what this country had done to Black people over the course of centuries. I didn't know that 12 of our first 18 presidents owned enslaved people. I didn't have the language to understand how redlining and government-sponsored housing segregation shaped the landscape of contemporary America. I didn't know that New Deal legislation and the GI Bill after World War II purposely left out millions of Black people from accessing its benefits, basically trapping them in intergenerational poverty, while millions of white Americans received those benefits, giving them a leg up into purchasing homes, attending and graduating college, and moving comfortably into the middle class. The sorts of things that have long-term intergenerational implications. I didn't know these things because no one told me. No one taught us this in school. And when I did learn it, many years later, it was so important. It was so freeing because it helped me better understand why our country looks the way that it does today. It helped me understand that the disparities Black people experience in this country are not because there is anything wrong with Black people, but because of everything that has been done to Black people over the course of generations. Now, it should be said that sometimes when people think about Black history, they think only of slavery and oppression. And while slavery is deeply, deeply important, trust me, I wrote a whole book about it, to understanding how Black Americans first arrived here en masse, how the United States developed its early economy, and why so much inequality persists between Black and white Americans across the board, it would also be a mistake to conflate the story of Black life in this country singularly with the issue of slavery, which is to say, naming the centrality of slavery to the American project can be done without falling into the trap of suggesting that Black history begins and ends with slavery. Black history is more than slavery. It is more than Jim Crow apartheid. It is more than oppression. And while we will obviously be addressing these issues directly, because they are central to understanding how this country came to be what it is, we will also be talking about Black art, Black literature, Black cultural traditions, and all that Black people have created and accomplished in spite of centuries of both interpersonal and structural violence. Black American history is as much about the joys and celebrations and traditions of Black life as much as it is about being able to name and identify the ways that this country has long subjugated Black people. They are not and have never been mutually exclusive. In fact, they go hand in hand.
As he said, Black American history is as much about the joys and celebrations and traditions of Black life as much as it is about being able to name and identify the ways that this country has long subjugated Black people. They are not and have never been mutually exclusive. In fact, they go hand in hand. And that is how we will be approaching Black history in Advisory as well. We will spend some time talking about some uncomfortable truths about Black people's history in this country. And at the same time, we'll be talking about the many, many contributions that Black folks have made to this country in spite of that oppression. And it's to that end that I want to start off by talking about James Baldwin. James Baldwin was an excellent writer and activist, and his work and his speeches and his interviews still very much resonate today. And so the first video you'll watch will be a little bit of an introduction to Baldwin and a little clue into why he was being tracked by the FBI. And then after that, you'll watch this video about James Baldwin's debate with a white intellectual named William Buckley. And even though this may feel pretty dated, it was back in 1965 at the height of the Civil Rights Movement. There are some discussion questions that you'll be talking about after the video that you should preview so that you know what to look for while the video is going on. But I want you to see from these arguments in 1965 just how divided folks were on the issue of race at the time. So I hope that you enjoy learning a little bit more about James Baldwin. One more thing before I go. Tomorrow in Advisory is a very, very important day. You'll need your school computer. You'll need your district computer. So even though you should bring it every day, definitely bring your charged computer tomorrow for Advisory. We're going to be going through some course selections for next year. So enjoy the lesson today, be good to yourself and others, and I will see you real soon.